Hey, welcome all. This is Pete Bain with an oil painting demonstration video. And I'd like to start just by thanking you very much for joining me. I do appreciate it so much. And I'd like to ask that if you do like the video, please leave a comment and hit the subscribe button. Alright, so this is a video that shows the second half of a still life painting of two stacked teacups. I created the setup in my basement using some old china, a strong light, and an interesting polka dot pattern. And what I like about this painting is that where the fine china pieces are paired with the sort of whimsical polka dot pattern. And I also wanted to give students the ability to experiment with the background, to make it more colorful, to change up the value if they like, just to enjoy it, to have some fun. I wanted to stress to anybody watching that you really take time with the drawing on paintings or setups like this with still lives or boats or man-made objects. You really want to make sure you have the sizes of the cups correct, the shapes of the handles. The ellipses need to be really well done or it just won't look correct. It'll look amateurish. Even the pattern of the polka dots needs to be done well so that they read as that they're marching back into space. And you'll see I struggle with that later on in the painting, but I work hard to get it correct. At this point in the painting, the drawing and the block-in has been done in class. I'm now mixing some darks using ultramarine and transparent red oxide, and I'm using them to re-establish and strengthen the drawing and to enhance the shapes by showing the form shadows of the cups and the saucers. And here I go with a first pass at adding some color and some darker value into the background. I'm mixing ultramarine blue with some cad red to get this darkish purple color. And you can see that I'm mixing I'll be mixing three bands of value, a darker value at the top, a middle value throughout the middle third of the background, and then a much lighter value at the base. And then I just kind of knit them together at the line where they join, using soft strokes with a brush that's really obliquely held against the canvas, and just softening that line so it sort of disappears. And the gradation of color and value is seamless to the eye. Now I'll use some dark to go back in and repair the handles that I messed up with the background, and just continue to touch up some of the darker edges to really accentuate the shapes of these cups and saucers. All right, now I will refine this little tablecloth. It's actually a pillowcase, one of a set. The other one has purple polka dots, and perhaps I'll share that painting as well with you at the end of the video. But yeah, I'm trying to make sure that each of these polka dots reads as an ellipse, as a circle on edge, and that the white field is brighter in the front, and then it gets a little bit more gray as it recedes into the distance. I add a silvery color here. I think this is just alizarin crimson with a bit of ultramarine blue and a touch of yellow to gray it down. And as it goes back into the distance away from the light source, it gets a little less bright, and the horizon line becomes soft and fuzzy. At this point in the painting, I'm a little bit dissatisfied with the composition. I felt like it didn't have enough oomph, interest, so I decided to add a fairly significant cast shadow across the tablecloth and change the light source, make it coming from the extreme right, And so you can see me putting some highlights onto these cups. I'm using titanium white with a little bit of yellow ochre, and now I'm putting a shadow on the saucer to reflect that the cast shadow. Not only does it hit the tablecloth, but it's also across the saucer behind that cup. And I'm blending the shadow line with the form shadow of the cup with the highlight on the right side of the cup at this point. I like to move all around the painting, so I think that it helps keep my eyes fresh, so I can read values and colors and shapes better. And it also lets the paint set up a little bit as I jump around. It becomes a little tacky, and then when I move back into it, I can add color on top of it, make corrections a little bit easier. Now remember, when you do these shadows, that as the shadow moves away from the object, it does get lighter. So it's darker right up close and underneath these saucers. And then as it moves away, the edges become softer, more blurred, and more light is bouncing around in there. And it becomes lighter in value. So I'm feeling like my painting needs a little more drama, so I really push the darks within the background. Ultramarine blue, bit of cad red. There's probably a little bit of transparent red oxide in there, and then I drop a couple of values as I go down. Lower on this background, make it, and I'll do four bands of value. So very dark, medium dark, a little bit lighter, and then finally quite light at towards the edge of the table, the horizon line, if you will. Painting through these ears or the handles of the teacups, trying not to mess them up. And now I'll knit this all together. I'll go to each of these lines and I'll just, with a very soft brush, pull the paint back and forth, up and down, to get a seamless blend. And I don't mind, in fact, I prefer to leave some brush strokes visible. I think that the signature of the artist is that's part of the beauty of the painting. And but you can certainly, you could make this all disappear, all these brush strokes disappear by using a soft a brush with natural bristles like sable. You would find a wide flat brush and just make all of those brush strokes disappear. I want to make sure that inside edge of that top cup has enough light on it, and also at the extreme edges to the left and right of the ellipse, so make it a little bit darker to show the form, how it comes round towards us. It's not catching as much light on those curves, and so it's a little bit darker. A very subtle effect, but I think it shows the shape and form of the interior of the cup pretty well. This is a point in the painting where I go back and forth and struggle a little bit with the value of those shadows on the left side of the teacups. The trouble arose when I decided to change the light source to a strong light source from the right side, so the photo reference doesn't give me a real indication of how deep that shadow would be. So I experiment a little bit, go back and forth with those darks, trying to represent the form of the cup, but I didn't want to go too dark, make it too heavy. So I was looking for just the right value that jives with the shadow that's cast by the teacups. All right, having spent some time with the cups, battling those values on the left side, I decided to take a break and fine tune those polka dot ellipses. And I'm finding that the ones on the right are a little too tight, so I'm going to move them all over to the left. I feel like the spacing is going to be important for, believability of the setting. And yeah, so right now I'm using alizarin crimson with just a bit of white, kind of keeping it simple. And that's the pink I'm getting there. And now I'm using my white with just a touch of yellow ochre to make the white tablecloth, the field around the polka dots. And I'm using that negative space to kind of slice away and refine those oval shapes, those ellipses that the polka dots form. So if you observe closely within the photo reference, you'll see that the underside of the plate does have some light on it, which is being reflected upwards from the tablecloth. It's a pinkish hue, and so that's important to help show this whole structure of these saucers. Now I'm just refining that shadow a little bit, softening the edges, making the gradation of dark to light a little smoother. And here I am putting that highlighted edge along the saucers. Just some further refinements here to the handles. It's always challenging to know how much detail to put in there. There's a lot of reflected light. There's two tones. There's the white china versus like the silver glaze. There are highlights. So I'm working through all those decisions in my head. Wanted to get the base of the cup correct there. There's a bit of there's a foot is receiving quite a lot of light, so I put that in at this point. I was feeling that the cups were close to complete, but my tablecloth was competing with them in terms of brightness. So I decided to take it down a little bit of a value level, and I added some a little silvery purple color to the wet yellow that was there, making it, just graying it down a bit. I wanted to drop the value so it was a little less than the highlights within the cups. And while I did that, I used the opportunity to further correct the shapes of the ellipses, of the polka dots, and yeah, space them out a little bit more correctly as well. So you can see it's a it was a long process getting these polka dots spaced correctly, and the values had to be corrected several times over. But I feel like I won the battle by the end of the day. And by the way, if I had taken a great deal of time to properly space out and plot these polka dots at the start of the painting, a lot of this could have been avoided, a lot of this back and forth. So it reinforces my point earlier. Spend some time with the drawing right up front, as much time as you need to get it correct, and then go into your colors and your values. This is the time in the painting where you can just fine tune some of your edges, put, really reinforce your accents, your darks, put your highlights on, the brims. I go back and forth on these handles a little bit more, trying to figure out if they should be darker or lighter, or simplified, or have more complexity in them. But essentially the painting's there. All right, and here's the finished work. I hope you enjoyed this painting. Please leave comments below and hit the subscribe button if you had a good time. Thanks very much for watching. I very much appreciate it. See you next time.